How many times have you felt yourself trapped in a loop of failure, convinced that no matter how hard you try, you just aren't enough? How often do we replay our own missteps, letting shame and frustration weigh on our shoulders, as if every effort to move forward is destined to crumble? And the strangest part, maybe the most insidious, is that we believe it. We believe we are broken, incapable, destined to repeat the same mistakes over and over again. But what if that belief itself is part of the trap? What if our so-called failures aren't really failures at all, but something far more complex, something orchestrated by parts of ourselves we rarely notice? Carl Jung, the psychiatrist who explored the hidden depths of a human psyche, had a perspective that can feel both unsettling and liberating. He suggested that what we often call failure is not failure in the literal sense. Instead, it's a reflection of internal forces quietly at work, a shadow, a silent theater where unseen parts of ourselves pull strings, operate behind the scenes, and steer our actions. These aren't just the voices of doubt or laziness. They are deeper. They are guardians of a sort, but not noble ones. They protect us out of fear. They shield us from change, from growth, from the discomfort that comes with taking risks or standing out. They want to keep us small, invisible, and safe, because safety, no matter how limiting, is familiar. These guardians, or saboteurs, as many call them, aren't imposed by anyone else. They aren't your boss, your family, or society. They live within you. They are formed from the fragments of your experiences, moments of shame, rejection, criticism, or neglect. Childhood memories where you were told to stay quiet, to avoid standing out, to hide your emotions. Adolescence where your efforts to be authentic were met with ridicule or dismissal. Even small moments, too easily forgotten, that created coded messages in your mind. Be careful. Don't shine too bright. Stay hidden. Over the years, these voices accumulate, gaining power, learning, adapting, until they guide your actions without you realizing it. And what do they guide you toward? Often, toward self-sabotage. You might delay tasks, procrastinate endlessly, or give up just as success is within reach. Relationships may falter, opportunities slip through your fingers, and old patterns repeat themselves with a precision that feels almost cruel. But why? Why would a part of you betray your own goals, your own happiness? Jung argued that the psyche is an assembly of parts, some conscious and rational, others unconscious and protective. Not every part wants evolution or success. Some parts cling to the familiar because change threatens the identity built for survival. For these parts, growth can mean exposure. Standing out can mean judgment or loneliness. Shining can mean criticism or rejection. And so, they pull us back like invisible anchors holding us to the safety of what we know. This is not about laziness or lack of discipline. It is a quiet, internal conflict, a war waged between aspiration and the protective instincts of the shadow. The shadow is the repository of all that we have repressed. Our fears, our impulses, the traits deemed unacceptable, painful memories, and hidden desires. Everything that doesn't fit the socially acceptable version of ourselves goes there. From early on, we're taught what is appropriate to feel or express. Don't cry, that's weakness. Don't take pride in yourself, that's arrogance. Be grateful, don't complain. And we adapt, building a conscious self while banishing whole parts of our identity into the unconscious. But repression does not erase. The hidden grows stronger, develops its own momentum, and begins to influence us covertly. Consider this. Every time you procrastinate, doubt yourself, or create unnecessary conflict just as things are going well, it is often the shadow at work. Not as an enemy, but as a misguided guardian. It acts from the principle of survival, not malice. Growth is risk. Risk is danger. Danger triggers defense. And so, it whispers the things you already fear. You will fail. You don't deserve this. Better stay where it's safe. And these whispers feel like your own thoughts. They are your inner voice, masquerading as reason. Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Until we confront this hidden part of ourselves, we walk through life thinking misfortune or bad luck is to blame, never realizing that the shadow is quietly scripting our story. The origins of this internal saboteur are subtle, yet profound. Often, they stem from emotional experiences recorded in the psyche as existential threats, moments when being seen, heard, or authentic brought pain. A child who was criticized for expressing joy, who learned that standing out invited ridicule, who understood that asserting independence might provoke rejection, grows into an adult whose unconscious mind sees authenticity itself as hazardous. The shadow then becomes a deeply ingrained protective mechanism. It is not logical. It does not weigh pros and cons rationally. It reacts to emotional memories and associations, constantly scanning for danger as it once perceived it. Its priority is safety, even at the cost of opportunity, growth, or happiness. The effects are everywhere. Missed deadlines, abandoned projects, procrastination, needless conflicts, self-critical thoughts, anxiety that arrives at the most inconvenient moments. Even when we sense we are ready to take the next step, launch a project, begin a relationship, pursue a dream, the shadow activates. Its strategies are subtle: fatigue, doubt, distraction, minor conflicts, delaying tactics. They feel natural, inevitable, sometimes even rational, but they are not. They are signals, symptoms, the shadow asserting its influence. Negative self-talk is one of its most effective tools. That inner voice that says, "You're not ready, you'll fail, someone else can do this better." These are echoes of past experiences, replayed unconsciously to keep us grounded, to prevent exposure, to perceive danger. Strategic self-sabotage emerges in small choices. Missing key emails, staying up late before important events, getting into arguments at the wrong moments. Even peace can trigger it. Often, when everything seems stable, the shadow unsettles us, creating chaos where none is needed. It knows how to maintain control, even if that control comes disguised as discomfort. Yet, there's a path forward. The shadow only has power while it remains unconscious. Recognition is the first step. When we identify these patterns, we begin to reclaim autonomy. But recognition alone is not enough. We must engage, dialogue, and understand. Jung introduced a method called active imagination, a practice of conscious engagement with the unconscious. Here, the shadow is not an enemy, but a participant in a conversation. We may visualize the part of us that procrastinates, fears, or sabotages. We ask, "Why do you act this way? What are you protecting me from?" We listen, we observe, we interact. Through this process, the shadow reveals its purpose. Often, what seemed destructive is actually protective, albeit poorly calibrated. It seeks safety, not destruction. It operates from the emotional logic of past experiences, but with awareness, we can guide it. Integration is not instant. It is gradual, painful, and demands honesty. But it is transformative. Energy once bound in fear, procrastination, and self-doubt can be redirected. Anger, shame, insecurity, and fear, when understood, become sources of insight, creativity, and vitality. What was once a chain becomes fuel. The journey of shadow integration leads to freedom. Procrastination diminishes, self-criticism softens. Patterns that once trapped us begin to unravel. The inner saboteur does not disappear, but walks alongside us, its energy harnessed for growth rather than regression. As Jung said, enlightenment does not come by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. True transformation comes not from erasing the shadow, but from dialogue and understanding, from turning the hidden into the known, the feared into the integrated. And once we have integrated these hidden parts, a new question emerges. What do we do with the energy liberated from the shadow? How do we transform fear into courage, pain into learning, insecurity into creativity? These questions guide the next stage of personal evolution. What was once internal resistance becomes a source of momentum. The very part that sought to hold us back now aids us in moving forward. The cycle of self-sabotage begins to unravel, and the life that was once a field of obstacles becomes fertile ground for possibility. If you feel the weight of hidden forces within you, know this: they are not enemies to be defeated. They are aspects of yourself, waiting for recognition, dialogue, and integration. The whispers of fear, the procrastination, the inner doubts, they are not flaws, but messages. Messages that point to areas of your psyche that need attention, understanding, and care. By facing them, listening, and conversing, you reclaim the energy that was scattered, misdirected, or trapped. You transform chaos into guidance. And slowly, steadily, the self that was once limited begins to expand, embracing not only the light, but the shadow as well.